Just wait for a few minutes to see if everyone's like. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Saris, the spiritual director, spiritual care practitioner for Estuary Moments, my spiritual development and leadership development practice and enterprise. And I'm coming on here to speak about the concept of soul and collective, personal and collective soul mending, which came as a concept to me um, at a lived experience of my life, and it just wants to communicate that today, just because. And this is not the only live reading live. The next live reading live will be on reclaiming death and rebirth and the energy of death and rebirth, but our ideas of death and rebirth are visceral of death and rebirth from necropolitics and projections that we had on them while ignoring our own felt experience and tradition and all that good stuff. So we're going to start with soul mending and what wants to be communicated, my own lived experience of what landed about regarding of what came to that, and then we'll do a reading on that. So just a brief thing once again is that I'm Saris. I am a spiritual director, but besides being a director, I'm also a spirit care practitioner and leadership development nerd. So with a spiritual activist bent. So I'm here to say I will get here to be of service and just transmitting first my own reflection, and then we'll do a bit of card reading about the personal and soul, and collective soul mending. And that is that. What's coming through regarding of the topic, it's been marinating for about a year now, actually, is, and I will want to clarify that soul and spirit have different meanings for different people, and it's typically is your own unique energy or your unique vitality or your overall life force. Your vitality. We'll keep that as a definition of soul for today. Your overall vitality, your overall aliveness, so to speak, your spark, your aliveness, your essence that is ever revealing, that's ever uncovering, and that is ever being put together, that is always in dialectic with other parts of yourself and in dialectic in the world. It is an overall essence and an overall vitality and life force, your overall your own energy and life force. So that will be the definition of the day, just for the sake of this. So now that we got that out of the way, let's talk about like mending, like where coming from. And I come from a background of called culture care and influenced by Kintsugi concept again. Is mending needs to make anew. It's not merely fixing to status quo. So when I think of mending, I don't think of mending to a status quo per se, or not. And it's not that all status quo is terrible or badness. It just depends what kind of status quo, or where is that, or what baseline it is, shall we say. And it's not so much because something's broken that means all damage is good damage. Sometimes it's just breakage. Sometimes it's just falling apart. Sometimes it's just that. There's no such thing. But what it do is it's more of a concept of the art of uncovering and evolving and maturating into something that's more closer to my understanding is one of the ways to of the process of the butterfly becoming the caliper again, and the caliper become the butterfly sort of energy behind mending. And it's more closer to weaving, but it's a type of weaving that is more like reclaiming your energy and then reclaiming your energy, clearing the things that are taking your aliveness, not just on an individual level, but taking the aliveness of your community and your relationships and of your relationships. And it's also like, what are you going to allow in? Sourcing. What are you going to allow in? It's actually a riff on a I can't speak Yiddish or Hebrew, but it means like repairing the world kind of thing, and it's that similar riff, but it says they repaired the world, repairing the spirit, repairing the overall aliveness on a personal and collective level. The claiming ways of vitality, so to speak. So with Leadade, it is a way of weaving, but unlike weaving into a tapestry is, you're basically becoming a mosaic of a galaxy. We're claiming that you are a living galaxy among other galaxies and among multi universes, and 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 building and repatterning into a different pattern that makes it easier to evolve into something that is better, or to something that's more truer to yourself and truer to through a more actualized way of being whatever being that is, like being a beloved community or being free or being that a state of being and becoming. It is like, and the reason, and this is copied up because it's time to call forth the idea that liking the work you do, liking how you're living and working and contributing and having people generally like it too, not from a people pleasing place, but from a because they truly receive their energy and truly receive the impact and appreciate the impact, and you're appreciating that appreciation and is a human right. And I will dare say, like, liking the job that you do, that you know that makes a difference and that sustains your spirit, and that you're alive to be sustained, is a human right. It's coming from the basis that it's a human right, but we have to talk about the personal collective aliveness and that aliveness, and but yet we're at a place where we're at a lot of double binds on a personal and collective level, and we don't have a way to know what is actual boundaries and limitations, and what was the difference of you be holding yourself back in a good way from a place of consideration, and holding back from a place of bullying yourself, or from a place of not not feeling comfortable of how do you show up in a relationship or a community that requires like standing up to a person, or requires a hard conversation with a person, or that requires acknowledging how that other person is impacting you, and you impacting them. Like, you don't want to avoid the muddiness that comes with it. And because of that, it's really hard to unload the Protestant work ethic and the Kabbalist mentality of seeing yourself as a terrible person, terrible person, or blight, on you. So I want to give a thought of just a little bit of transmit thoughts of what and why I want to like do reading based on the concept of soul mending and what I mean by that. So that way, it doesn't turn into about fixing yourself, which or just merely optimization. It's reclaiming liberatory self and communal self-actualization, or way to visualize self-actualization a little differently, that actually supports your survival, and that your survival supports your self-actualization in a way that supports each other and not seeing them as separate. So that is where I'm coming from. So if you can, so now that I'm done with that, you're free to share like your thoughts on soul mending, and I want to acknowledge the influence of the Jewish influence that comes with like repairing the world. But then what about repair our soul? And that's when I got it, and the influence of culture care and being tuned in the concept of culture care and that influence. So I want to own that influence that later brought up the concept of soul mending, and that's where I wanted this. So now that I have my own transmission, my own reflection on soul for everybody, we can start the reading. Like, if it's okay to leave questions, to leave your reflections, your what comes to mind. What have you ever heard of this concept, or have you felt it but you don't know the words? You could leave you could share your reflections or whatever, and things of that sort. And so now that it's done, we can start with the first. Like, I'm just really like, this is how this reading is gonna go. It's gonna go personal soul mending, like in your individual soul mending. Interpersonal, which is collective soul mending relationships and energy between like whatever relation. This is general relationships, the relationship entities and groups. And then there's the collective cultural energy. So we're gonna go. This is just there'll be 3 readings. It'll be 3 cards for each. So it is not gonna be like super in-depth read. This is gonna be a general feel of my unique transmission on this particular thing. It is thing. And this is for those who are curious about it and want receive what wants to support them. So with that said, let's get it moving. We'll start with the personal, the individual, or within parts of yourself. This is going to be the first card deck. You know, like less highest and best messages for what, and the question we'll ask, it will be the same question I'll ask, is what 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 what's calling for what am I calling forward? What's calling me forward to step into to my own personal individual soul mending? Translation: what type of soul mending on an individual level am I invited to go? And where do I step into, and what and where to start on a personal level? This is a general reading, but it's live, so Tower, Emperor, Temptation. Okay. So I'm using the Good deck. And so the first one for this particular about personal individual soul mending. What am I step into to participate in soul mending audit on an individual level? And that's the Tower. Look at this little tower. There it is. Tower. And Tower. Emperor. 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 I have two devices that are also doing live on multiple platforms, so forgive if I look really funny. And Temptation, which is probably the devil. This is probably. Now let me get my coffee. And I'm gonna read from Tower to Emperor to Temptation, aka known as the devil's card. Known as the devil. Known as the devil. Known as the devil's card. Tower. Starting with Tower, your basic overall thing before reading individually, Tower, Emperor, and then Temptation, is you're invited to unravel and clear away things that don't hold you when facing the call for power disruption on things that don't nourish you as a person. Basically, part of soul mending is facing that can hold is basically you're called to whatever deconditioning or whatever changes and disruptions that are good about to happen, or amount of deconstruction that has to happen so that you could be prepared for creating, reconstructing a different way of perceiving things, different conditions to support you, either define so managing how you're perceiving things, or if you don't have an issue of managing, you're already versed with managing perception, and you're self-honest enough about your own biases, your own deconditioning, and your own like kind of dissonance is shifting your conditions in your environment and taking different actions and momentum, that will support you in facing um, the need of pattern disruption, and pattern disruption in a way that is supportive of that's more rooted in self-acceptance and self-honesty at the same time, in the sense of what interconnected is in mind. So with Tower, Emperor, and Temptation, which I need to double check if it's the devil or simply of the devil or card or what. It's really overall energy with these cute little pictures like these, and this is this energy of what are things that are breaking down, that are irritated, that are shaken up, or changes that crack you open, kind of stuff that will give you what that means. Look at what is cracking you open, not from, and look at the things that are cracking open, not from either toxic positivity nonsense of thinking there's some good damage out of it, because sometimes the fallout is the fallout and there's no fallout, nor is it make like big pathology either, or shaming yourself for going through the experience of cracking open. But look at this cracking open, what's called the change, and then that's gonna experience that and see how it can be an opportunity to give yourself space to rethink on what can support you as a person in in how to proactively face the need of power disruption on things that really helped you survive, that really helped you, and it still helped you. But now you have to learn how to properly use the hammer instead of 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 being in reactionary mentality by default. How do you like that? Because it just is what you know, and it is what you know. You gotta decondition of that. So the big thing is this. So the soul mending is a lot of more on the unlearning and then filling in as you unlearn, and that's what's coming up is seeing what is shaken up, and then like look at ways to support yourself and what power disruptions that need to be had to mostly to learn how to properly use the tools and your self-protective mechanisms in a way that is that's not going to make your life a lot more complicated than necessarily, while simultaneously destigmatizing, but also simultaneously not move away from whatever reactionary politic or tendencies that you have to internalize, along with self protective mechanisms, and how to decouple necessary protective mechanisms and and reactionary like tendencies and worldview that can marry into them. So that's the first part to learn. That's for the personal. Now we can transition to the collective. Like, what can your relationships that you're currently living, or groups that you're currently in, or neighborhood, or like, or your besties, polycule, whatever that is, you that can call soul mending. Like, what is calling forth in your relationships, whatever relationships you have in mind, or groups you have in mind, or clubs, or particular communities that you have in mind, that you know you're going to have in mind when you're hearing me, that 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 are being called forward for soul mending. Like, what are you calling forth? What kind of interpersonal and relational soul mending uh, is going on today? So basically, like, the simpler answer is question we're going to now explore is, what are your relationships, groups, or things that in mind, like you're with, put some self honesty a little bit. It doesn't have to be more than one relationship. It doesn't mean more than, it doesn't have to be one relationship, one group, or one social club, or or whatever. It could be a few. But are you what are you called in those particular relationships, and the relationships energy in themselves, that are being called forward for interpersonal soul mending? So we're gonna go one more shuffle. I, you know, and the rest for this one is, what is calling for on a list, and so it's two Earth. So first is two of air. That's two of swords. Chariot. And two of earth, aka known as cups for tarot nerds out there. We'll read this from earth to air. So it's going to be read from air to pentacles, or no, that's air, chariot, and air. And based on reading this direction right here, it's calling for to um, synergizing. But the way it synergizes is create create a way of grounding yourself to actualize so that you can be in momentum. You can increase momentum that and find a way to be a momentum that will get out of your, most likely with two of air, it's because of the way it's reading, and it's more like, what can you, excuse my tea, and this is more like sensory, like what way of being in touch with the senses that can balance you to open yourself up to 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 move forward in whatever you're called to move forward in your life, so that the mental clarity, you know, you could be ready for mental clarity. What it's asking is is like on this particular, regarding on what ways can your groups and your relationships can start participating in soul level on a relational level, and in your groups, to calibrate the energy around it. It's really come to notice what you're juggling, concretely. What are needs and resources are you juggling that you need balance over to sustain whatever momentum you have, and whatever action you are is required of whatever thing, of whatever goal, or whatever responsibility you're going to have to clear whatever analysis paralysis in your head of or whatever cognitive dissonance. And if it's not cognitive, is seeing mental paradoxes that you have a stalemate under. Because what is saying, we're just reading from Earth, is that there is two truths that are truth, warranted truths that you're facing, that and the way to get to start being receptive of finding the answer is, it starts with looking at where are you under resourced, where have you not been balanced, or where resourcing is needed, but it's in the context of two. So you're learning to synergize, and it transitions the tree of finding core people to work with, or to create with, and to work or collaborate with. You're you're figuring out, in trying to figure out, like, how do I deal with these two warranted truths, and I don't see whether or not having a middle ground's worth it, or if there was, then what is it that doesn't look like meshing like the worst of both worlds department. It's like, look at where is the power dynamic, where the resources are on whatever you're going through. And the other side of that is, where are you under resourced? Where are your needs not being met? Where the community's needs are not being met? What are things are called to be met? And what things that need resourcing of? and what that you need the resources, and what is called to be momentum, because chariot is about, it's a fast moving card, it's moving forward like a horse, get up, get up. and and this is more like this energy of like regarding of soul mending is like what, oh, how do I get start resourcing, and 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 as I'm resourcing myself and trying to look at the lay of what is the power dynamic and what is the circumstances and of the situation of two these two seem truths that are both equally true but don't seem to be reconciling, as says by the two of air, two of swords. How can I move to figure that out? So for the feeling of this, it's starting with like where is the energy going? Like, it wants you to pay attention. Where is the energy moving towards? What are you compelled to be moving towards here? And how can I just resource myself and resource the in groups that can catapult me and everyone who wants to move forward with me, move forward with me. And where can I move forward and deepen that and trust that whatever what to do with with the two paradoxical truths, I will find an answer that can hold both, as I am taking on the action and the art of resourcing myself, the art of resourcing my relationships, and the art of like um of that to get me to be in momentum. So yeah, so this is a little bit like, even this, I'm just like air and water, air and earth is like the tug of pull, like let's figure it out, like how to put them together, and then the earth is like, let's rebalance the both your the body, the social location. What do you need now? What do you need now? What is your your community need now? Or what is the concrete truth of your relationship like first? Not trying to like going monkey circles around like how on how to put those two warranted and real truths, you you know you know get over the try to balance with the trying to get yourself resource and move forward what you know that you're compelled to move forward of, to not get so caught up in like in the in enforcing some kind of epiphany or some type of thing happening on your terms when you haven't balanced yourself out yet, or you haven't really faced what you're feeling yet. And there is actions that hasn't been moved forward yet. So yeah, that is like what you can do for soul mending. And even then, this is kind of like this vibe too, because it's added here where like, should I just go fix it in my head, or should I just stick to, or should I just take a risk in in just start taking action and figure the hell out of it. Yeah, so that is the second soul mending regarding of on relational and interpersonal soul mending. Now, drum roll is for the overall culture, collective soul mending, like what's being called for collective soul mending, and you're part of it at this time. So we're gonna go this part. You know, and I have like 15% battery, so like let me see if I can hone this at home. How's everyone doing there? Hope you're doing. We have water. 6 of earth. Okay, this is like 8 of water, aka 8 of cups. And this one looks like journeying into the sea as this person standing here in front, standing near the beach with a treasure chest, like diving into the treasure chest. So this is a very interesting interpretation of the 8. And this is already really very interesting. Here is fire, 5 of fire, 5 of wands, with like with butterflies, with some insect, moth or butterfly, I don't know what, and then with on the back. So, and with the snarky face, like I don't know if it's snarky, but it's fire. It has a snarky, tensious energy, like wanna fight, like all fire. And then 6 of earth is balance and giving and receiving, balancing, giving and receiving. And this has like antlers. It's a type of deer. It's an antelope or deer. If any animal buddies can correct me, can do it as an antelope, and it's the 6 of earth, known as 6 of pentacles. It wants to read fire, 5 of fire, 8 of water, and 6 of earth. So we're going from middle to the other, to earth, this direction. So from the direction of fire, it's for the collective, and you're part in that, and that whatever collective or particular collective or cultural or communal structure you can take place, and you're part in it. The other part, this is a little more clear than the other one. We're going your part in soul mending, because there's a lot of like, this one is just more clear. Is like it's conflict, and this is in the realm of fire, and wands and transmutation and creativity and vitality and life force and wildfire. It's wanting to start with like, what conflicts are called to be more intimate with, and which conflicts can be stepped aside. This is a call for both the art of way of being with conflict that calls for 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 making something new out of something, and also calling for knowing when conflict just needs to you just need to not 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 running towards it. Not intentionally. This is the collective is calling for like some purging, but the way that that transmutation of being into conflict, of intimacy, of creating, you know, synergy and harmony is through seeing what is the what messages are coming through this particular conflict, and also getting to like what is the deeper feeling or how you're feeling or what you're perceiving that is coming up through this conflict, and starting from there, since this is in the area of fire, it's like what is being activated and what you're being called to see, uh, to what perceptions are called to being questioned, and your feelings called to be questioned when facing whatever conflicts that are going on. And then you have to discern like which ones can be can be handled through more being intimate, through more of the being with, and step into what wants to come through during things, and what can just be conflict managed and resolution, but it's not going to be through like um neither outright blowout nor pacification, but more like what what does it tend to what fire, what is, can this be tended to, can this be redirected, this fire can be easily tended and stewarded first, then and then which conflicts just need to be put out, or that needs to be put out, or change the energy around it so that the conflict just diffuse, not to return to the status quo, because the status quo created a conflict in the first place, but a form of death and rebirth process of that conflict. So which conflict just gets to be transmuted and managed and gets to be more intimate in a trauma sensitive and non-suppressive way, and which ones that needs to go the die and rebirth process department, which may mean we need to figure out how to put it out, not with the intention of returning to a status quo, but to elevate a baseline of harmony that is more that is more liberatory and more nurturing for for multiple people, including yourself. And the reason why, and there's such a, I mean, talking is because you're good, because it's wanting to do that, because you need to give yourself space to a new way of giving and receiving, and a way of diving deep into things. Because with water, this looks like the person who's like seeing the sea, and traditionally water, and different depending on the artist's portrayal of Eight of Cups is like it can go diving deep into the dream world kind of thing. After you're facing like, what do I have to choose with the Seven of Cups? Like, what do I have to choose? Like, what's my choices? And then as you try, then what am I really feeling? What do I really want? And I need to go into this journey of of that of journeying myself or witnessing myself journeying myself and going deep and diving deep into something before to the Nine of Cups, which is now that I know I'm this deep exploration of what imagine is possible, I can have a wish fulfillment on what dreams I want to come true or what wish on love or on the dream that comes true. But during it before the nine, there's the eight of going that deep. And in this case, this is portrayed as someone who is watching the ship going to the ship, like of voyaging along the sea and witnessing the voyage while holding some treasure chest of whatever the fuck is that them is. And what this particular portrayal is more like you're diving deep, but you're observing yourself in diving deep to fetch the treasure or fetch more treasure on top of what you have, sort of scenario. So and then you got like coming home to balance, like how do I create where I have a not only a sacred exchange, but I'm actualizing that exchange. I'm actualizing like generosity and reciprocity in my life through just mere ways of how I give and how I receive and having clear boundary, having clear of what you want from a place of power, from a place of thing. So on the collective level of what can call it, it's calling for to set yourself up in the way we relate to conflict and discern about conflict. First of all, what kind of conflict is it and the power of the conflict, and examine that part. And then how does it activate you? And two, how what is the message of the conflict and what is this conflict calling me to do? What am I called to do with this conflict? Am I called to acclimate this conflict and be initiated by this conflict into something different, or am I called to put it out, the fire out, and go make it go through a redeath and rebirth process into a different state? Not from a place of suppressing yourself or 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 take up space in the way where you're causing someone else to repress themselves or and that mess, but just that. So it's calling for that so that I can be guided on this deep dive journey of imagining a way of inviting generosity and reciprocity at a concrete level, at a level where it actually feels good. So, but in order to do that, I have to see what kind of conflicts or what tensions or conflicts or things that are activating in me, and I have to prepare myself to notice those things, and then do the discernment process of what is that something I now or I need to put it out, but without the intention of certain status quos, because and check what the status quo is. And if the status quo is the one that's causing the unnecessary conflict or tension that you don't want to have, then you have to look what to do with that status quo and what does it invite you to, and is it invited to be put out or is it inviting you to be more intimate with it, to how to tend it, so it doesn't turn to, so you can have a more decision of what to do with that fire of conflict. And this is the one that deals with the fire levels of what that is. You know, what that is, what is there. And this is about generosity, like giving space to give yourself the deep dive, because it's calling deeper into that. The and you're and in a sense, it's about collective soul mending. It is calling for it to how to really face like tension and dissonance badly, in a way that invites to greater generosity and reciprocity, and actualizing that at both macro and micro level, and feeling safe between within groups, movements, and collectives to go on a deep dive for discovering those things, and you play a role, well, on a personal, doing this on a personal level yourself. So that's what came through. Like and every reading ironically matches what's going on personally. Because I mean, I'm gonna say, like, for the first one, it's not a shocker that there's a lot of like identity shifts for a lot of people that a lot of people don't want to say yes to, but that's gonna happen anyway. Especially when a lot of it starts with what you perceive. And then second is like, but because of identity shift, the circle about how to soul medi at a interpersonal level with some communities, groups, and whatnot. Um, you, you know, you're gonna have like kind of dissonance, and that puts you in a stalemate of contradictory truths, and not all contradictories are meant to be reconciled. If you don't know if it's an actual worded truth, but it's just that they seem contradictory, or is it because there's a power dynamic that is informing that, or there's a, a something missing. But yeah, just because you're still wondering in your head, that doesn't mean that there are things that need to be in momentum, and we need to get yourself in momentum and in action with things that need to be in action while you're figuring that stuff out. You know, because you're going to have, on a collective level, you're going to have to face conflict. You're going to have to face like multiple conflicts internally and externally. That's going to impact your butt. That's going to impact you and communities that you know of, and you run a personal soul level, and we have to like get that starting to habit of discerning what conflicts that you could move towards you for alchemizing conflict to create a new baseline, not just simply a new status quo as a former conflict manager, and which conflict that going through a new baseline, and a better and more liberatory baseline, and resolution starts with just putting the fire out, or not, or creating circumstances that don't ignite that fire in the first place, because that fire is not an appropriate fire for that particular thing. So that reciprocity and generosity can be possible, and giving you space to dive deeper what that means, having both generosity and reciprocity that is collectively and personally healing and alivening, at a tangible level, is something to face. So yeah, so this is the collective reading on soul mending, and reading on soul mending. There will be two things before I go off. There'll be another reading like this, similar, but this will be on how to reclaim death and rebirth. It'll be mostly a long rant about necropolitics, and I will necropolitics and reclaim death and rebirth that isn't just neither fetishized or demonized, and rather than listen to the message of that, you know. And that is say on Halloween, the 31st Halloween, and it's also the day that my Voxer intensive anchoring your vocation is gonna go live on Thursday in the cart. So I will start talking more about how you can get into it or who is it for, um, and how, and if you're interested, how you get into it a little more. So there's three. So on the 31st, Halloween, Hallows Eve, and whatever that you call for respecting the departed on the day of the 31st, there'll be another reading, another live reading for transmission for the collective kind of stuff, as well as that my Voxer and my muscle Voxer intensive offer is going to be live, which you will get more information about that in weeks, if for the next several weeks, and how you get in, and the story behind it, where more stories behind, more detailed stories behind it. So looking forward to for the next live in 2 days from now. So when I say good night, and looking forward to being with you again on Thursday. So talk to you soon. And cheers. Cheers. Excuse me.